Hi everyone, it's Miss Maddie. I hope you guys are all doing well and having fun while you're at home. I miss you guys so much and I really miss reading to you guys. We always read a lot of really fun stories in class and I wanted to come on here and share them with you today. So the story I picked today was The 7 Silly Eaters. I picked this book because I read this book a bunch when I was your age, so I thought you guys might enjoy it. So it's written by Mary Ann Haberman and it's illustrated by Marla Fraze. If you guys remember, the author is who writes the words and the illustrator is who draws the pictures. So let's get started. Not so long ago, they say, a mother lived just like today. Mrs. Peters was her name. Her little boy was named the same. Now Peter was a perfect son in every way except for one. I wonder what that one reason could be. When Peter was just 1 year old, he did not like his milk served cold. He did not like his milk served hot. He liked it warm, and he would not drink it if he was not sure if it was the perfect temperature. But Mrs. Peters did not mind. She was a mother, sweet and kind, and when his milk spilled on the floor, she patiently prepared some more. She'd take the bottle from the shelf and chuckle softly to herself. What a silly sort of eater is my darling baby Peter. Are you guys noticing how some of the words are rhyming? Like eater and Peter? Let's see if we hear any more rhyming words. When Peter had not yet turned 2, another baby, sweet and new, was born, dear Lucy, small and fair, with big blue eyes and curly hair. But long before this child was grown, she had opinions of her own, of what she'd eat and what she'd not. She hated milk, both cold and hot, and warm was worst of all. Instead, whenever Lucy dear was fed, she bellowed for pink lemonade, not from a can, oh no, homemade. But Mrs. Peters did not mind. She squeezed each lemon to its rind, while mopping milk up from the floor and patiently preparing more. She'd take the lemons from the shelf and giggle softly to herself. What a silly pair of eaters are Lucy dear and Peter Peters. Now Lucy grew and Peter grew, till he was 3 and she was 2. And who was one? Why, little Jack, with eyes so brown and hair so black, a happy baby, never cross, but all he'd eat was applesauce. Peeling apples by the pound, Mrs. Peter faintly frowned. She'd take the apples from the shelf and murmur weakly to herself, what a silly bunch of eaters are Lucy, Jack, and Peter Peters. Peter, Lucy, and young Jack had another brother, Mac. Mac was charming, round and plump, but if his oatmeal had a lump, Mac would dump it on the cat. Mrs. Peters hated that. That's sort of silly. But since she loved her children 4, she'd strain the oatmeal 2 times more. She'd take it from the pantry shelf and mumble sadly to herself, what a foolish group of eaters are my precious little Peters. Boy. Before another year was through, who came along? Why, Mary Lou. She was darling, sweet, and bright, and had a healthy appetite. I wonder if she's going to have any food she doesn't like. That is, as long as she was fed soft and squishy homemade bread. Poor Mrs. Peter got no rest, but still she did her very best. She'd take the flour from the shelf and mutter feebly to herself, what a fussy bunch of eaters are my lovely little Peters. A lot of picky eaters so far. A year rolled by, the children grew. They really are a splendid crew, sighed Mrs. Peter, pinning pins and diapering her brand new twins. Little sisters, quick and smart, impossible to tell apart, but flow like poached eggs, fran like fried. If she mixed them up, they'd cry. Tired to the very bone, Mrs. Peter groaned a groan. She'd take the eggs down from the shelf and whisper weakly to herself, what a persnickety young eaters are my 7 little Peters. Now time went by as time will do, and as it passed, the children grew. The problem was that as they grew, their appetites kept growing too, but not their choices of what to eat. Each child continued to repeat, they wanted what they'd had before. The trouble was, they wanted more. Oh man, how do you think Mrs. Peters is feeling? Seems like she has a lot of different things to do. Apples from the tree, make the bread, clean up after the spilled milk, make sure they get their eggs, making sure he gets his not lumpy oatmeal, and she has to squeeze the fresh lemonade. I wonder how Miss Peters might be feeling. Let's see if we find out. Creamy oatmeal, pots of it, homemade bread, and lots of it. Peeling apples by the peck, Mrs. Peter was a wreck. She wiped her brow and heaved a sigh. Another year was passing by. In fact, she realized with sorrow, her birthday would arrive tomorrow. Drearily she shook her head and wearily went up to bed. She thought the children had forgot her special day, but they had not. At the crack of dawn, they all began to carry out their secret plan. Mrs. Peters would be fed a birthday breakfast in her bed, a breakfast made from all the foods that kept them in such happy moods. Let's see if they can do it. So while the weary mother slept, down the stairs the children crept, and from the cupboards and the shelves, happily they helped themselves. Cheerfully they chopped and stirred, preparing what each other preferred. But despite their pains they took, since nobody knew how to cook, to measure things or to make them hot. The more they tried, the worse it got. I wonder if they're going to be able to pull off their birthday surprise. First Mac's oatmeal turned out lumpy, which made poor Mac turn grim and grumpy. In fact, the lumps got him so cross, he dumped them in Jack's applesauce. This bothered Jack so much, he threw it into the dough of Mary Lou, who tossed the mishmash that made straight into Lucy's lemonade. And that put her in such a huff, she poured the icky, sticky stuff into the double frying pan that held the eggs of Flo and Fran, who flung the hodgepodge on the spot into the milk in Peter's pot. Oh man, look at the mess they're making. There's all of their food into the milk pot. But when they saw what they had done, they'd wish they had never begun. They'd hardly slept a wink that night, and still things hadn't turned out right. And even though they'd tried their best, it hadn't worked. They were stressed. They'd be in trouble too, unless they found some place to hide the mess. The oven seemed the perfect spot. They all forgot it was still hot. They stuck the pot inside, and then they all went back to bed again. If the oven's hot and they just put the food in, I wonder what's going to happen. The clock struck 6, but on they slept. Meanwhile, their mother softly stepped down the kitchen, smelled a smell. What could it be? She could not tell. It smelled so good, she sniffed some more and opened up the oven door. I wonder what might be inside the oven. Do you guys remember? She woke the children with her cries. They all came running in surprise. And in the kitchen what they found was Mrs. Peters dancing round. And in the oven, no mistake, a pink and plump and perfect cake. And as their mother danced with glee, she cried, "A birthday cake for me? A birthday cake still piping hot? To think I thought you had forgot. Now tell me please, how did you make the pink and plump and perfect cake? So high and light and smooth as silk?" "It's smooth and silk from all my milk," said Peter. Lucy said, "It's pink from all my lemonade, I think." "And from my apples," added Jack. "My oatmeal made it soft," said Mac. "My bread dough too," said Mary Lou. Said Fran and Flo, "As it's the size, it was our eggs that made it rise." Then everybody sniffed some more, and they danced around the kitchen floor. Wow, all of the kids' foods turned into something great. A birthday cake. They put the cake upon a dish and lit the candles. "Make a wish." The children cried, "Before you blow," and Mrs. Peter did just so. And what is more, her wish came true, as birthday wishes often do. And there's that big cake the kids just made. Wonder what the mom wished for. And from that day to this 'tis said, the Peters family all is fed. A single simple meal, just one, a meal that's good for everyone. A meal on which they all agree, made from their secret recipe. They all take turns in mixing it, they all take turns in fixing it. It's thick to beat and quick to bake, it's fine to eat and fun to make. What do you guys think the food they make is? It's Mrs. Peters' birthday cake. So all the kids had their picky food choices, but they all turned out to make one big, yummy birthday cake. I think that's such a nice story, how they can all come together and make their mom happy. So I hope you guys enjoyed the story, and you guys will be hearing another story next week from Miss Amanda. Have a good week. Bye, everyone.